The WA government has unveiled a budget surplus of more than $3 billion, along with cost of living relief measures for householders, including another $400 power bill credit. State political reporter Rhiannon joins us from Parliament House. Rhiannon, did the state budget deliver as promised?
Pamela, the government had to deliver cost of living relief for WA households in this budget, and there are measures in there to ease the pressure. A lot of it having already been announced, like cash for parents to help cover school costs, but there were a couple of extra sweeteners in there too. The Cook government's first state budget is also its last before WA voters head to the polls, meaning these books are aimed at pleasing just about everyone.
My government is providing supports for families, for seniors, for tradies, for renters. In fact, this budget delivers for every Western Australian.
All WA households and small businesses will again get $400 off their power bills. Just like last year, it'll be split into two $200 credits. WA is the place to be, population rising by 3.3% over the year to September 2023, equivalent to almost 94,000 people. The state expected to have a population of 3 million by next financial year. But where are they all going to live? Well, the government is spending $1.1 billion to boost housing supply, including new funding to get more people into the property market, with stamp duty relief expanding to properties valued between $450,000 and $600,000, if you can find a place at that price.
The modelling shows 5,000 home buyers will benefit from this change.
Are there 5,000 homes out there at that price point?
Our modelling shows that 5,000 people will benefit, as in they'll benefit from some concession, either the full exemption or the concession.
In welcome news, inflation is easing while wages are growing, which according to Treasury should mean your pay packet stretches further. As for the books, they're still in good shape, a $3.2 billion surplus tipped for this financial year, staying in the black across the forward estimates. Debt, though, steadily creeping up to $41 billion in 2027. WA Labor's sixth consecutive budget surplus, thanks in large part to, you guessed it, iron ore prices. The commodity once again outperforming expectations. The state's coffers also benefiting from GST revenue, population growth and real estate prices. So how will it be spent? $3.2 billion on health, $1.8 billion on diversifying the economy, investing $500 million of that in a so-called Strategic Industries Fund. Also something the government is not so keen to spruik, another Metronet cost blowout. An additional $707 million on top of the overall bill. Most of that tab will be picked up by the Commonwealth.
Well, yet again, we have a government that's unable to manage its projects. Over $12 billion spent on a rail system, which is going to just build in more cost to ongoing costs to Western Australia.
The Liberal Party there criticising the government spending in this state budget. But the real question is whether the government's done enough in the eyes of everyday West Aussies. Here's reporter Courtney Withers.
Rebecca Johnson regularly shops at hunger relief charity Food Bank to provide for her family, but it's getting harder to fill a trolley these days.
While I do think that there are very well-intentioned people in Parliament doing their best to hear the need on the street and meet that need, they cannot hear and understand what the individuals in the community are going through.
The government says it's listening, pointing to its power bill relief and school assistance payments to parents of school-aged children. Electricity will go up by $46 in the next year, water by $45, and it will cost an additional $25 for car registration. The government is forecasting that inflation will ease, but for now, places like Food Bank still say they're being swamped.
What we're seeing now is it's a representation from every part of the community, including dual income households who are just trying to balance a budget so they can keep their home.
While cost of living pressures have been the main focus of this year's budget, small businesses were hoping for more, along with social services.
Unfortunately for many small and family businesses, it's all glitter and no gold. We still fail to see meaningful payroll tax reform
We're extremely disappointed today that there wasn't an uplift in the indexation for community service organisations. There has been huge, the biggest spends we've seen in the community services, but they haven't fixed the problem for existing services that are being cut.
For now, it's back to food bank for Rebecca for the foreseeable future.
Handouts are great and I appreciate them to be a hand up for a certain period of time, but long term it doesn't actually help because that money disappears. What we need is a long-term alternative.
While this budget has been described as one of the most hopeful in recent times, there's concern it doesn't provide for frontline services struggling to cope with rising wages and operating costs. Courtney Withers, ABC News.
Now to hear more from the woman behind the books, state political reporter Keane Bourke sat down with the Treasurer earlier.
Treasurer, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You say this is a budget which invests in the future of WA, but are you doing enough for the people struggling right now?
Well, absolutely. We've got record cost of living support for families in Western Australia. Not only today do we announce the $400 electricity credit, that's on top of the student assistance payment, which was announced a number of weeks ago.
Are you actually helping though, or are you just trying to win votes with those?
Oh, absolutely helping. Look, we understand cost of living is real out there for families across the state and also all different types of families.
Let's just look at the power bill credit, because your government has spent about $2 billion all up on power credits over the last few years. But when they end, people's power bills are just going to go up by $400.
Well, what it is targeting the relief now, because we've seen, in particular over the past 3 years, we've seen inflation in the economy, we've seen, of course, interest rate increases, and so this is at a time where we believe Western Australians need the help.
Could you not have used all of the surpluses over the last few years, though, to do something structural for cost of living?
Well, in relation to structural, what we're doing is driving economic growth. One of the best ways we can support Western Australian families is make sure we keep creating jobs in Western Australia. We have the lowest unemployment rate of all the states. We've created over 300,000 jobs since 2017. So structurally, what we're doing is diversifying the economy, creating jobs and creating opportunities.
Another focus of the budget is diversifying the economy. You've got more than $1 billion in there to do that. But the budget also shows we're still very reliant on iron ore. When is that going to change?
Well, it's a big task because we have been very reliant on iron ore. What we did see was, of course, lithium playing a greater role, but we've seen, in a sense, the lithium price reduce its contribution to the state budget.
So can we ever get off iron ore?
Well, what we're very much doing is looking at our resources, at lithium, our critical minerals, on how we can add value, how can we undertake more processing in Western Australia.
Have you got a time for when you'd like those changes to start flowing through?
Well, it's happened to a point. We've seen some downstream processing of the lithium already in WA.
In 5 years' time, should we be less reliant on iron ore?
Within 5 years would be great.
Treasurer, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Rita Saffioti there speaking after her first state budget as Treasurer. It'll also be her last before WA voters head to the polls in March next year. And that's important to note because while there has been criticism that the government could have gone further to help struggling households, businesses and social services, we are heading into a state election. And the government won't want to burn through all of its sweeteners this far out. People have short memories. So, Pamela, expect to see more announcements aimed at winning over voters as we get closer to March next year.
Thanks, Rhiannon.